Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down.
Alright, here's one more video made for tomorrow. So, while you're watching this, we are up at 4 o'clock in the morning on a one direct flight across the Pacific Ocean. Hopefully we make it. Now, I can't remember, maybe I did or maybe I didn't yesterday, but at the beginning of yesterday's video I mentioned the alarming point of the migrating, hundreds of thousands of migrating people being encouraged by, excuse me, NATO and the Red Cross. I might have said Salvation Army by accident, and if I did, I'm correcting myself, it's the Red Cross. Like I said earlier, in case you missed it yesterday, just for a different angle to look at what's going on that end, regardless of what happens once they finally make it through Mexico, is the fact that these absolute dark, sinister groups would actually encourage a poverty-stricken family to drag their infant children, any children, even themselves, on that trek through jungles, mountains, bandits, criminals, kidnappers, rapists, drug dealers. And hopefully we see at the end of the line. And by the way, here's some maps for you that we've mapped out for you. We saw that direct 100% in-your-face evidence. We saw that evidence that the UN and the Red Cross is doing that. Meanwhile, like I was just talking to Sarah about this earlier, who would even suggest a family jump in a car with a car seat, without a car seat, and throw an infant in the back seat without a seatbelt? Here. That's illegal. Right? But these groups are sending people on treks on foot without the correct equipment, safety gear, anything. Protection for those poor babies. And they're sending them on treks through different various Central American countries. Through jungles, crossing rivers, paying bandits, being smuggled, losing children, being raped, being killed. It's amazing. And if you know anybody directly involved with the blue hat, dark sons of bitches or the Red Cross, maybe directly challenge them on that fact and that point alone. What's up with that one, right? But anyways, oh, by the way, check out this guy. Check out this guy on that note, just for the hell of it, because this guy needs to be made fairly popular. What he did, what his position was. Check this out. get some voices heard. I'm going to give little bits of truth about everything I think is important as I go along in this ride of life. This is titled Weird Experience. Hey, great channel. Informative to say the least. I, a retired government worker, and this is the reason why I will not go public with my experience. I've been hunting since the age of 15 years old. In the field of work I was in, military/law enforcement, I would have been sent for a psych evaluation and removed from active duty, if I ever spoke of this. I still do not want to be recognized for this encounter, but I feel a need to tell the story. I was a scope-sighted rifleman, so stalking a target is not new to me. I have received multiple training courses through my 34 years of service on how to cover and conceal myself in multiple theaters of operations. I was in British Columbia, Chilliwack to be exact. I was told there was deer and black bear around Chilliwack Lake, so I decided to go scope the area out for signs of potential activity in that area. I passed the Chilliwack Lake camp area for around 3 kilometers, parked my vehicle with my wax tire marker to mark my way in and my 12 gauge with Sabot slugs. I walked in for about 4 kilometers, found a good spot to sit, observe, and just enjoy the beauty of the wilderness. There was absolutely no people around, ATVs, motocross, not even birds chirping, no squirrels running in the branches, just dead, not sounds, which I thought was weird. So, after around 30 minutes, the environment was still dead, nothing, very creepy. I decided to change my location, and this is when it started to get weird. I came upon a carcass. The weird thing is, it was not mauled, bitten, or even eaten. It was completely ripped apart in totality. I knew it was not recent, as the blood had turned blackish. So, knowing I was in a kill site, I decided to pull back a bit and observe the general area. I'm now about 30 feet from the carcass, and the only way I can describe the smell that came over me was when a mop was left in a dirty bucket of water. I worked on farms my entire youth, and I never smelled anything like it. I was almost dry heaving, just nasty. I decided to retreat back to my vehicle, following my wax tire marker trail I made on the way in. I noticed that the marks were smudged. I'm getting weirded out, and my hypervigilance is at max now. I made it about 1 kilometer, and there was something heavy, real heavy to my left. The ground had a slight vibration in it. I decided to put my back against a large rock and prepare for a fight. Something was stalking me. It was smart and fast, and that smell just kept following me. At this point, I charged my shotgun. After about 5 minutes, hearing nothing, I continued my trail out. There were noises on my flanks, but not too close. When I was close to my vehicle, I made sure I was around 100 meters from my vehicle, and after a short stop of around 5 minutes, I proceeded to my vehicle. A large tree was leaning, hovering over it. As you can expect, I drove out of there in a hurry. After about 15 kilometers, I stopped, and my legs would not move. As I sat and trying to make sense of what just happened, I realized I just got chased out by something or things. There's definitely more than one. Well, I secured my shotgun and started to drive home, realizing I can never tell anybody about this. It would ruin my career. Number one, one this day, something was in the woods. It was heavy, smart, and aggressive. I know it knew what a weapon was, and it knew I was ready to fight. After I charged my shotgun, they kept their distance. I've been in the life or death theater of operations. I've never experienced anything like this. I have received training on how to understand your sixth senses, and I have become very good and listening to my gut instinct. On that day, my instinct told me I was in a very dangerous situation. How I reacted probably saved me. I'm not a Bigfoot believer. I've never seen one, but there is something in those woods, and it is not friendly. I've not been in the woods since, or have I hunted. I moved out of British Columbia. I also lost a great passion of mine, hunting. Do I want to remain anonymous? Hell yes. Nobody would respect me if I spoke of this. What the F could rip an animal apart like that? No signs of tracks in the kill area, just animal parts. Regards. I'll leave your name out, your first name out even. Alright, man? Now, one big question is, what was the carcass? What was it? Deer, I'm guessing? Bear? Moose? Elk? What was it? Right? And I don't know why you think nobody respects you if you share what happened, because it's the truth. Right? If somebody can't handle the truth, well, see ya. Oh well, that's my truth. Didn't ask for it, didn't make it up. And I'm not sure if you're still here with us following this channel, but if you are, maybe you could write us back and tell us a little more about that kill that you saw. What was it? Did you see bones? Did you see the internal organs? Did you see fur, hide, head, feet? What was there? And also, for all you who may not remember, there's another email that came in Chilliwack Lake of another guy who went down the lake to that first chunk of beach. We have the first little chunk of access. You can drive your vehicle to this chunk of beach. I know the one he's talking about. I've been there. And he launched his little boat, went out fishing, and one of these things was standing there beside his truck with a hanging limp arm that was injured, and it was making some nasty ass movements and vocalizations towards him, I think, roaring at him or something. And then another vehicle pulled up some partiers, and the thing disappeared. Thankfully for him, and he escaped there. But there's been so many sightings around Chilliwack Lake, it's stupid, right? As well as the rest of the province. But anyway, if you're still here hanging out, make sure you email us back. Share us what that kill site was all about. What was it? What was left? Crazy, right? I'm not a Bigfoot believer, but... Alright, who's next? Alright, here's another one. Listen to this. Hi, Steve. As I've watched your videos on YouTube and listened to the stories of your viewers, I realized my own experiences were not of just normal things in the wilderness and outdoors. These experiences continue to trouble me to this day. My first one was when I was a kid. My dad was a logger, so we spent most of our time in the outdoors and woods camping and fishing. And camping near my dad's job sites, since it was easier to camp nearby than for my dad to drive those distances every day. Most of those camping trips were normal. The last camping trip we went on, that was job site camping trip, was a weird one. Normal camping trips, my dad would always bring along his rifle or pistol due to the bears and mountain lions that were always around. But this time he was worried. He brought both his rifles and pistol. He specifically told us kids and my mom to not go wandering off or go too far from the campsite. His explanation was that there had been a big bear spotted at the logging site and near camp. It seemed to have shaken him, and he was a logger. Nothing ever shook him like that, but he never said anything else about it and never wanted to camp again. That was the last time we camped near one of his job sites. He openly says, even to this day, that he hates camping, but never says why. I didn't see anything out there that trip or hear anything, but there was an uneasy feeling that I had not felt while camping before, so I'm not sure what was really going on. My next experience was about 6 years ago. I used to take my kids camping about 45 minutes from where we currently live. We'd go every summer. It allowed us kids to be able to just be kids and have fun camping. The last camping trip we went on at the same place we had been going to every year was not a normal camping trip. Far from it. And it still makes my hair stand on end just thinking about it. We tried camping there 2 more times after this one I'm going to tell you about, but ended up coming back home. It just didn't feel right out there anymore. It started out normal, but quickly went to all out strange and creepy. We had our tents set up right next to each other. One was mine, the other 2 were my kids' tents. They were not small tents. The tops to them stood taller than I am, and I'm 5'1". You'll understand why I added that when you read my experience. The first night was a bit odd because we heard strange noises in the campground that we had not ever heard before. I figured it was raccoons because they were known to be out there, but my kids and I had an uneasy feeling that we could not pin down to anything that would cause it. We all tried to shrug it off and enjoy our camping trip. That night, my kids wanted to sleep in the car, so I agreed and we all slept in the car. The next day, we found tracks too big to be a raccoon, so I thought, okay, it's got to be a coyote. But the tracks looked odd, so I snapped a couple pics of them with my phone and sent the pics to my dad. He hunted and worked in the woods for over 20 years, so he knows animal tracks. I asked him what they were, and his response shocked me. He said he honestly didn't know He said he honestly didn't know, which was odd. If it had been coyotes or raccoons, he would have identified that right away. The tracks were all over our campsite and too big to be raccoon, but didn't look like coyote either. But looked canine of some sort, with skinny long feet and claws. We all slept in the car. The third night, saw the same prints again, but they had circled the car. We talked about the Fish and Wildlife officer that had come out there that day, and he shrugged it off and said they get raccoons out there all the time and nothing to worry about. He wouldn't even look at the tracks. Trying to keep things light and fun, I just told my kids it wasn't anything to worry about, but they could sleep in the car again. I didn't want to scare them, so I tried to do what we normally do while camping. I stupidly decided to sleep in my tent that night, and my kids slept in the car. My back was on fire from sleeping in the car for 2 nights, so I slept in my tent. Holy shit. I had an overwhelming senses of uneasiness, so I stayed away and started reading a book on my Kindle Fire, hoping it would put me at ease and take my mind off the feeling I had. It didn't, but I tried to go to sleep anyway. After reading for a bit, that feeling hit even stronger and harder. Then I heard a deep, heavy grunt from something very large. No way that was from coyote. Whatever that came from had to be very large and heavy from the sound of that grunt or snort. I was scared out of my mind. I thought of my kids in my car. I knew they were safer than I was. I was in a tent. No protection from a tent, but I was scared for the safety of my kids, and I knew whatever this thing was, it was between me and my kids in my car. So I had no chance of getting to my kids if I ran, and the car was parked about 5 feet from my tent. There was nothing I could do but wait, listen, and be ready to get my kids at all costs if anything went for my car with my kids inside. Luckily that didn't happen. I didn't hear anything after that, so I eventually went to sleep after peeking out of the door of the tent and not seeing anything or anyone out there. The next morning I went up and I heard my kids up and about acting normal. I got out of my tent and got ready to start breakfast. I went to the tent directly next to mine because I wanted to see if an animal had gotten in there, or tried to, because we had an empty cooler in there. So I opened up the tent and was shocked to my core. Something had torn the back of that tent from the top of it down to the bottom in 3 long tears about 1 foot to 1.5 foot apart. And along the bottom of the tent, where the back meets the floor, was torn all the way across the bottom. I've never seen that before. No way a raccoon did that. And the cooler had not been touched. No scratches or bite marks on it, and the lid was still on it and in place. It doesn't have hinges to keep the lid on. That tent was up next to mine, and it was the tent meant for my 2 girls. My boys' tent was next to my girls' tent. I had not heard anything. Only that grunt or a snort, no ripping of the tent at all, and I should have heard that. There's no way I would have missed it. I didn't sleep heavily that night. I was on edge and ready to protect my kids, so I can't explain how I didn't hear that racket of the tent being shredded like that. There were no tracks either, which there should have been. It had been raining for days before we went camping, so there was a ton of mud, but whatever did that to my girls' tent left no tracks around the tent. We did see the odd prints that we had been seeing, though, just not around the tent or in back of it. There wasn't even any prints on the floor of the tent. As I said, we did try to go camping there again after that, but none of us felt comfortable there again. Always the same uneasy feeling, so we stopped camping. Where we live, there are not many campsites unless you want to drive hours away, which was and is not an option. But in all honesty, my kids and myself just don't feel the same about camping anymore. No desire for it. I don't know what that was out there, nor do I care to know, but I do have a few thoughts on what it may have been, and it's not of the normal animal type of thoughts. If you have an opinion or ideas of what you think it could have been, I'd love to hear about it, because if you think it was just your everyday wild animal, that would put my mind at ease for sure. Thank you for reading my story. Love what you're doing, getting people's stories and experiences out there and helping so many people. Please don't share my name or exact location. I live in a small town with people that ridicule and bully and have to live there, unable to move anytime soon. Most of this town is that way, so I'm sure you can understand why I prefer not to be identified. I will share with you where the campsite is, though, for you to know yourself. All right, I got you. As for the Fish and Wildlife officer that we ran into during my camping trip, he was an ass. Not only did he dismiss the complaints about an animal out there that didn't belong there by me and other campers, but he also thought he would harass me for the next 2 days we were there. They normally don't charge camping fees except for during paddlefish season, or if you're just there one night in a local, but the guy told me I had to pay or leave. I'm pretty sure it was because I spoke up about the odd things going on with whatever was there. He kept up the asshole moves till we left. Even my kids were confused by his actions. The day before we left, we heard a bunch of hound dogs on the other side of the river, which is not normal. There had never been hound dogs in that area all the times we camped there, so another odd thing to add to an already odd camping trip. Thanks again, Steve. Please get back to me if you think this is a coyote or something normal, animal-wise, or if you have any opinions on this. Take care and God bless you and your family. Okay, gotcha. Hope you didn't say not to share this, right? No, you didn't. All right, there we go. Shared. Now, what was it? That was nothing I know of. There's no frickin' way. I've seen what grizzly bears and black bears do to cabins and tents, and they don't do that. If they decide they're gonna rip a tent, the tent goes down, right? So, what was that? Especially with no prints, and especially after days, or what'd you say, days or weeks of rain? I don't know what that was, but I know it's freaking alarming, and I know to get your kids the hell away from that area, that's for sure. That's all I know from your story. But maybe somebody may chime in the comment section below this video and let you know if they have seen or experienced the same. So for me, a tent torn from side to side of the bottom, top to bottom, 3 times foot apart, and no prints. For me, just to hear that, I don't have an answer. Haven't a clue, but it doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good. Unfortunate about the people in your town. Pretty shitty. The game warden sounds like a bit of a butthole. Anyway, if you've come to any, I don't even know when this is mailed in to us. If you come to any new conclusions or any new information, email us back, all right? Email us back. All right, here's another one. Oh, there's no title in this email. Howdy, my name is Dale Culbertson, and I have a tale to share, although it's not that dramatic. This was back when I was about 13, 42 years ago. Our mother had just moved us to the mountains. We grew up in a small city called Hermosa Beach, which was a beautiful, light, sandy beach about a half an hour south of Los Angeles. We moved up to a place called Mount Baldy, California. We went from sea level to about 7,000 foot in elevation. I was about 12 years old when we moved during the summer into our new cabin. It was a rustic cabin with 1 bedroom, a bathroom, a tiny kitchen, a huge stone fireplace, and a little propane heater. It was different there in the woods. Just as beautiful as the beach, but different. Not too long after we'd moved in, we began to experience the occasional knock or bang in our cabin. Sometimes it'd be up high on the wall, and others, it would sound like something hit or landed on the roof. I was a gutsy kid, chock full of adventure, and not quite smart enough to be scared. We never saw anything, and would attribute it to pine cones falling from trees. Growing up, I was no stranger to the paranormal due to the fact that I was one of those people that would see apparitions and spirits. Well, summer rolled into fall, and then winter hit. I still remember that morning like it was yesterday, 40 plus years ago, because we woke up to the season's first snow. My younger brother and I were like kids in a candy store. With big old eyes, we asked our mom if we could go play in the snow. She said yes, but you two stay together and don't get separated. We bundled up and headed out to play. Yippee. We began with the typical snowball fight, but as we were playing, we noticed a set of footprints that were heading along the top of the ravine that was behind our cabin. The ravine was anywhere from 50 to 250 feet deep, depending on the area you were at. There was a waterfall up canyon that flowed down the gorge. I was overly excited and told my little brother I wanted to follow them to see where they went. They were headed south or downhill from our location. As we were walking, he asked me what I thought they were, and I said, "Dude, these are Bigfoot tracks. Look how big they are," putting my boot inside one of the prints. We had what we call, oh, my elbow, hold on a minute here. Getting all mashed in here. We had what we called moon boots. You know, the big old fluffy silver winter boots. And my boot was small inside the tracks. When I said that, my brother began to get scared. We followed the tracks down the ridge, then headed down into the gorge. Right about then, my brother Moses began to really freak out and almost started to cry. But I calmed him down and got him to go a little further. Down below, there was an area of snow that was all messed up and discolored. My brother refused to go all the way down because he was too scared. I got him to come about halfway, but he froze. He said he was really nervous, and that's all fair, as he was about 10 years old, so he just stood there as I went to investigate. When I got down to the ruffled up snow, my gut started to tell me that I was in the wrong place. The snow had what could only have been blood splatter mixed up in it. I yelled back to my brother, "It's blood!" With tears in his voice, he yelled, "I'm scared, Dale, let's go." I was all, "Hang on just a sec. I'm trying to see what happened here." As I stood in the blood-soaked snow, I noticed another set of tracks coming from the opposite direction, only these were bear tracks. As best I could reckon, the bear and the Sasquatch had an altercation, but by what I could reason, the Bigfoot must have killed the bear and carried it away, because only one set of tracks left that patch headed back canyon, the Bigfoot's. The bear tracks ended where the blood was, but Bigfoot's kept going. We ran back to the cabin and told our mom what we found, and that's when she told us about the tribe stories about him. We are Native Americans, or shall I say indigenous peoples, and the Sasquatch is no stranger to the tribe. She didn't feel like we were in danger, nor did she stop us from going outside, just reminded us of what she taught us. At least we found the answer to what keeps knocking on our cabin. They were never mean or aggressive bangs, just knocks like, "I'm here." 100% true story with no embellishments. Feel free to say my name, as I don't care who thinks what. This is one of the countless, unbelievable experiences in my life, but shit, it happened. And I feel blessed to know there's more to this planet than we are taught in school. Thanks and be safe. Dale Culbertson. Dale? So stoked and happy you emailed me with that. And if you've got more, you want to share it, man, share it, all right? I want to learn from you. Your family, your community, I want to learn. I want to hear it all. If you've got more, you would be generous and kind enough to share with us and the people. Email it back to me, all right, man? If you would, if you could. That would have been something else to see that in the snow, right? I've come upon some kills in nature numerous times. Sometimes real alarming. I've walked into grizzly bear kills and stuff, but I've yet to see something like that. I think I would like to see that. That would be crazy. Wow. All right. One more. All right, this is the title. "If only I knew then what I know now," said everybody. Right? Steve, thank you for a safe place to share. I grew up in northeast Ohio in the 70s. My grandmother lived on 5 acres, excuse me, mostly backed by several hundred acres of deep second growth woods. Excuse me. I spent most weekends and holidays with her and would venture off into the woods regularly, only returning to the house when she banged on a frying pan with a spoon as a signal to return. There are many odd structures in the woods, and I never gave it a second thought. It always felt like a safe place. I would occasionally get weird feelings, not scary. I once stumbled on an odd swamp that captured my imagination. I sat on the ground for what seemed like 15 to 30 minutes, but apparently I was in the woods for 5 hours, according to Grandma. I never saw anything or felt afraid. Rather, it always felt like home. I always tried to find that swamp again, but could never locate it, no matter how hard I tried. Was it all an illusion? I really cannot say. Odd thing is, whenever I stayed there overnight, I would have vivid dreams of a Sasquatch grabbing me under his arm and taking me away. The dreams were quite dreadful, but I just figured, just juvenile night terrors. Fast forward to recent times. I live alone and take frequent trips to Alaska to adopt retired sled dogs. Currently sharing my home with 5 of them. No shit. The Mushes have become close friends who I spend several days with, and I bask in the peace that comes with staying off-grid, lacking running water and electricity. It's my safe place. On one trip, early March, minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, we woke up at sunrise, and they asked if I wanted to run a 10-dog team. Of course, I said yes. We spent the next hour preparing a sled, harnesses, tug line, and dogs. It's quite a loud mess getting dogs hooked up, as they're all jazzed to go for a run. Once you're on your way, complete silence. Only the sound of metal clasps jingling and sled runners gliding on the hard-packed snow. About 30 minutes into our journey, I heard from my left rear quarter a bone-rattling roar, lasting about 8 to 10 seconds. It sounded like a cross between a lion and a man. I was up around 3,000 feet in rolling hills, and as best as I can tell, it was at least a half a mile away. I never mentioned it upon returning, but several years later I asked what that was, and they just smiled and nodded. I knew they knew. No other words were required. Thank you for all you do to help the community. Warmest regards, Lurkst. I hope I didn't butcher your name, man. Lerxst. And below is only for you not to be read out loud. Right on, man. Appreciate it. I'm right there with you. We get it. And appreciate the email. And maybe you should share this email or share this video with your friends. See if they want to get knee-jerked into sharing something they may know. Sharing it with the people. Maybe, possibly, you never know. Hope so. But anyways, there you go. Oh, hold on a minute. What do we got here? Alright, this is it. Had a little bit of an interruption earlier. And now it's dark out. And there's a cheesy band playing outside that door. You can't really hear it right now. Maybe they shut down for a few minutes, hopefully. But anyway, I'm just going to share this one more email, and then I'm going to close this up. And the next time you see me, it's going to be at home, probably live. So there. So here we go. Let's just get this one more email added on here. And while you're listening to this, we will be, I don't know how many feet in the air, was it 10,000 or something, over the Pacific Ocean coming home. Here we go. It's titled What I Know. I got 3 episodes to talk about, so I'll keep it short. Do black bears eat coyote? Born and raised in Michigan. I spent a lot of time in the forest all my life. Lots of hunting and camping. Not the kind of person to be afraid. I just got real serious. I just get real serious, but stay calm. I'm the kind of guy that hunts and camps alone if nobody else will go. Ditto. Here's what happened. Back in around 2003, I took my girlfriend up camping in the Huron National Forest in a pop-up. I'd been there many times and had shot a nice 8-point up off of Bissonnet Road, a couple miles down a fire trail. So, I was looking for that spot. I knew there was a nice clearing back in there next to a huge cedar swamp. We got there late and couldn't find the spot, so we set up in the fire trail. No fire that night. The trees right next to the camper, being the old hand in the big woods that I had heard a lot of animals fighting at night. 2 possum fighting over an empty cheese curl bag sounds pretty wicked, lol. I was thinking if she had heard something like that, she would shit. And I would get a good laugh. Anyway, we're sitting in the camper that night, and all of a sudden something about 100 yards out was killing a canine. Real low growling, and that canine yelping and death whines at the end. Well, that freaked us both out. So we didn't sleep out in the beds. Instead, we slept in the trailer part, and I roped the door shut. I had several high-power guns and large clips, plus 45 long Colt and some 22 long rifle. So I finally dozed off. Next morning, I got up, burned and buried my garbage. I unloaded all but a 7.62 by 39 and the long Colt. I thought to myself, I'm going to empty the rifle on a stump. So I shot this stump 30 times and put the gun in the case, and with the rest in the truck. Went by in the camper, started drinking coffee, and started hearing this thing out in the forest about 1,000 yards out. Spooky as hell. I could hear it getting closer. I just shot a high-power rifle 30 times. Anything in them woods should have been gone, but it was coming to us. Sometimes it sounded like it was up in the trees, and then down on the ground. I don't know if I was going to be doing battle with an alien or a rabid bear or Bigfoot. I could picture in my head my camper being found half-packed and us missing. And I wasn't looking forward to watching my girlfriend being ripped apart. It kept getting closer, and pretty soon she freaked out and said, "Get the rifle." I said, "It's unloaded in the truck." And if I took time to dig it out, I would surely be seeing what the hell was making that sound. And just keep working on getting the hell out of there alive. At one point, it got so close, I ran up and laid on the horn. Then I got quiet, and I thought, shit, man, now I don't know where it is. I kept my eyes peeled in handgun range, but like I said, I didn't know if it was going to be in the trees or on the ground. When we made out to 65, a paved road, I stopped at a place called the Bear Store and asked if anyone else had told them a story like that lately. They said no. When I got back home and went online, I looked up a Bigfoot research site. It said, for Alcona County, Michigan, Bigfoot is back, and reports were trickling into the DNR from campers of Bigfoot intimidation behavior scaring people out of the woods. LOL. It was quite a few years later when I heard that sound again, and it was on YouTube. They claimed it was a Bigfoot howl. Anyhow, second story. Now I'm living in south central Ohio in the foothills of the Appalachian mountain chain. I got a bad knee now, so I don't get in the woods like I used to, but I still fish a lot. I've been fishing in Pine Creek for catfish at night, a lot by myself, till around 1 or 2 in the a.m. Once in a while, I could feel something staring at me to the point I would get so uncomfortable I'd leave. I decided to ask a friend of mine, who, by the way, was a sheriff deputy for 11 years, if he wanted to go with me. He said, yeah. So we went down there, fishing one night, and at about 1 a.m., something started throwing pebbles in the water. It would only happen when we both had our backs turned to rebait or mess with a fish. I heard it, but I didn't say a thing. We both were armed, 44 mag and a 38 special. Finley, my friend, said, "Hey Jim, I think somebody..." Oh, finally, my friend said, was spelt Finley. Sorry. Finally, my friend said, "Hey Jim, I think somebody's throwing rocks in the water. The nearest house is a quarter mile away or further across a plowed field, and there's a dog over there going crazy." I'd never done that before. Finally, my fishing buddy said, "What do you think? Are you ready to go?" I said, "Okay." As we were leaving, a huge rock was thrown in the creek. As we were climbing the bank, all I could smell was the smell of dog shit. I thought maybe it was on our feet somehow, but when we got in the car, it went away. Last story. I'm still here in Ohio. My son is staying with me for a while. He is like me and loves the woods. And one day I came home about a year ago and found he was sitting on the couch waiting on me. I came in and he said, with a look on his face, "Look at this." He had his phone in his hand. He showed me a picture of a huge footprint he found in the mud about 2 miles down the road and up a draw by a waterfall. It was February. It had toe prints in it, no claw marks. It was getting dark and rain was in the forecast, and I got a bad knee. So the next day I call a Bigfoot research group and they come out and took a cast. They said it was 14 inches long and 6 inches wide, and they said it was a good find. Anyhow, that's all I got. Here's the pic. There is the pic. There you go. Let's do it that way. That's pretty effective, isn't it? And there you go. Ohio once again. And another footprint picture once again for the 1500th time plus, right? And there you go. Appreciate you sending that in, man. And I don't know, you can read when that came in, but if you're still here hanging out and you've learned something you want to share with all the people through me, give her at sharemystory@howtohunt.com, and that goes for everybody else. All right, there we go. That's it. The global tour is over. Next time you see my mug, it's going to be live on this damn thing. Back shortly.